Muito boa tarde a todos e a todas que estão aqui conosco. Welcome. Welcome to Portugal, welcome to Lisbon, good afternoon ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our Planetiers World Gathering. Well, in a different kind of connection, but still together. Welcome to our first debate around conscious education and sustainable youth. I would like you to welcome our guests. So I'll start with Mikaela Övén. She's from the Academia de Parentalidade Consciente, Mindfulness instructor, certified coach. Mia promotes family communication and conscious parenting. She's author of the books Educar com Mindfulness, Mindfulness for Education, Heartfulness, and Education with Mindfulness for Teenagers. She's also a speaker passionate about equal dignity and human relations. Hi Mia, welcome. Then we have Francis Salema. They are 17 years old. Activist Francis Salema, they were one of the first organizers of school strikes for climate change in Portugal, which mobilized more than 20,000 students. They continue to advocate for various social causes like LGBT rights. Hello, Francis. And last but not least, we have Cassia Moraes. She's the CEO of Youth Climate Leaders, and I can say that young people traveling the world and working together to start their career as climate leaders. So thank you so much for being here. The organization told me that we are live all over the world, so don't be nervous. And each one of our guests will have a pitch around 7 minutes regarding their loves, their activisms, and then we'll have a talk, and I can also receive your questions on our chat. So Cassia, if you please start our conversation. Welcome to Portugal and to our gathering.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here. Planetiers is one of the reasons I came to Portugal. I met the team and I was really impressed by the potential of the country in the sustainable development and how many initiatives were going on. But Fernanda read our old slogan. I will talk a little bit about it. We changed a lot. We are 2.5 years old. But if you're asking yourself, so what is Youth Climate Leaders? One of our main partners in Brazil, he said that YCL, Youth Climate Leaders, is the most amazing thing someone have ever thought about it. But we have a more modest slogan, which is we connect and train young people to connect them with opportunities in the field of climate change. Right now we have more than 300 fellows from 20 countries, and our goal is to reach 1 million by 2030, so we have to grow exponentially every year. And our success is due to people like Frances, and I'm really happy to have her with us. Young people from early ages, sometimes even not adolescents yet, they are already aware about climate change and they want to do something. I used to say that I am from the old generation of young climate activists. So it's been a long time that I've been talking about it. I did my thesis about climate change in 2010. And since then, I was already aware about climate change. Before, it was a big movement, and I felt very alone. I'm really happy to see that more young people right now are concerned about it. And I think everyone here that worked somehow with climate change is part of this success, because it's been years of discussing and promoting the importance of climate action. But the problem is, young people right now, they are aware, a lot of them, and they care about climate change, but they don't know what to do. They feel powerless oftentimes. There's even a new concept, and I moderated a very nice panel about mental health, and there is the climate grief. So we can see that young people, they are feeling a different kind of depression sometimes because they are worried about their future. They don't know what to do. And what is our medicine for that? Is helping them to take action. As Sergio said, we have to empower them to do something, to channel this anger into action. And this is the main reasons we decided to found Youth Climate Leaders. And even though, as I mentioned, I was sure I wanted to work with climate change since undergrad, was a very difficult path for me. I did volunteer work for many years, but I started my career in a bank that back then was pretty much the kind of institution that would hire someone with no professional experience. And it took me around 6 years to land a full-time paid job on climate change. I did even a master's in Columbia University. I had other professional experience before. And when I finally got there, many young people started emailing me, contacting me, because they also wanted to work and they didn't know where to start. And then I thought with another friend of mine, which is also a co-founder, Evelyn Araripe, that this was an opportunity for us, the old, young climate leaders, help those that were starting right now to do in 6 months what took 6 years for us. And this is a very impressive journey because we know they are inspired, they want to do something, but they don't know where to start, they don't have the right connections. And I'm sorry that is in Portuguese, but I think everybody is happy because I'm speaking English and part of the presentation is in Portuguese. So we decided to create YCL for that. And it's interesting because we did this in 2018, which was when Fridays for Future was starting to get more popular. This year there was a report from the World Economic Forum that mentioned the main problems of this decade. And we are solving two, or trying to solve, and we hope you all will help us, two of those problems, which is the massive unemployment and the climate crisis. And those two problems, they are affecting young people's future, and they should be the main leaders on this process because they are going to be more affected. And we do this through three pillars. The first, which is like our learning journeys, where we teach about climate change in a very hands-on approach. We bring the challenges from real practitioners, and then we teach the theory and help and connect them with the networks that will help them to solve those challenges. We used to have international immersion that now we are transforming to an online international course, but we were, during the pandemic, in 2 weeks, we changed our YCL Brazil course to a full online Portuguese course. And so we are very happy that during the pandemic we were able to triple the number of students, and now we had even a second cohort this year with 40% more, and we hope to scale even more in the future. Maybe to finalize a little bit and give more time, one of the topics that I saw also Frances with her t-shirt is about jobs. And I really, coming from Brazil, an emerging country, and having on our network people also from Africa, Latin America, Asia, we know that most of young people of the world, they cannot be full-time volunteer activists. They need to earn an income. So I think the best innovation of our approach is to help them to start their careers and have a decent income. At the same time, they are collaborating with their cause. So this is, I think, the main goal of youth climate leaders, to go beyond giving a voice to youth, also providing training and concrete opportunities for young people to take action right now to start their careers in the field. And I will finalize with an invitation to you all, because in November we are going to have a full online event that we are calling the Day of the Climate Professional. That is to help young people to learn more about the professions related to climate change, 24-hour marathon on November 24th. And our partner from Way Carbon, he says that there are people that work with climate, but to learn and understand climate is a skill that every future professional should have. So I invite you to join us in this movement. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Cassia. You can clap so that we can prove the world we are here together with social distancing, a lot of it, which is quite weird. The last time I was in this room, it was completely full, like an egg. And today we have, thank you for being here. It's very important for us to listen to people on the other side, on the dark side, in fact. Now we welcome Frances that will show us their perspective on some of the decade's major issues and whether they will be a key factor in saving the planet. We're talking about education, health, and youth. Frances, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Today I'm here to talk to you about what activism is and the cultural change I believe is needed in order for us to be able to avoid climate disaster. So let's start with the big question. What is activism? Activism is the political activity of fighting for social justice. The fight for social justice is intersectional. It includes climate justice, workers' rights, LGBT rights, anti-racism, and all other social movements. Right now, there are thousands and thousands of campaigns on both a local and global level happening all over the world. And one of the most exciting things that I think that are happening on a global level in activism right now is the Glasgow Agreement, which is a climate commitment made by the people in response to the institutional failure of creating effective agreements or treaties that will keep global warming below 1.5 or 2 degrees. Every single one of us can and should be involved in activism. There are different levels of involvement, however. At the end of the day, those who organize a strike, those who document it for the media, and those who participated in it are all essential to the success of that strike. As people who want to fight for change, we also have to keep in mind that our goals cannot be of personal gain or profit. If we have selfish motives, we will be more interested in bringing change to our own lives than to the lives of others. In my experience with social movements, one of the biggest problems we constantly face is to have to mobilize more and more people to fight for our cause. And I've also seen communities suffer from no one taking initiative and actually fighting for a change. Angela Davis has talked about how there's this common misconception that change is brought about by heroic acts of heroic people, which is not true. Change is brought about by millions and thousands of people that are fighting for the change that they want to see. Therefore, to empower people to fight for change, we have to reject protagonism in social movements, and we have to shift our culture away from individualism. So how do we do that cultural shift? Well, one of the most important things is for us to have proper education, encouragement, and time for people to become aware and act upon challenges and the needs of their communities. We need education so that people are able to identify the problem and to know how to act accordingly. We need encouragement so people are motivated to act, and we need time for communities to think and to organize. However, for us to be able to assess the problems around us, we also need to connect with each other, with our community, and nature. Technology has had good and bad consequences for our society. We are able to connect with people who are further away from us and to receive more information and entertainment. However, we have now disconnected more and more from our local communities and from nature in general. Grassroots neighborhood associations are one of the most important factors in decentralizing power back to the communities, but they are very rare, especially in big cities, where green spaces are also very hard to find. We need to start to learn empathy instead of individualism so that we are able to correspond to everyone's needs. To grow back this connection, I believe one of the most important things we can do is follow the example of indigenous leadership. If Planetiers are those who take care of the planet, there is no one who has been doing this for longer or more successfully than indigenous communities all over the world. They have taken no part in the destruction of the planet because they are able to coexist harmoniously with nature without causing its destruction, which is something that our society hasn't still learned how to do. Indigenous leaders, they encourage us to question the fundamental basics of our society. We have to start questioning our structures and realize that unsustainability has roots in a lot of our structures, such as the banking system, which invests people's money into unsustainable industry without the people's consent. We have our economic system, which is made of eternal macroeconomic objectives of economic growth, which are not sustainable, not for nature, not for the health of human beings. We have the existence of an investment court system where multinationals can sue governments for the cancellation of their projects, even if those projects are canceled due to their environmental impact. And corruption and lack of transparency in democratic structures that are not truly representative are also very dangerous for the environment because they are more likely to listen to company lobbying than to the will of the people. And there are a lot more structures that we need to question in order to make actual change. But we must also question on a deeper level. We must question the ethics behind our economic principles. We have to ask ourselves, is it ethical for human wants to be unlimited when the resources in the world are limited? Is it ethical for one single human being to consume a lot more resources than they actually need? This cultural change needs to happen to the level of our society, but nowadays it only happens in an individual or at best in the level of small communities. After this change, we are left with an individual who is conscious, a well-meaning consumer and citizen who is, however, inserted in a society that hasn't suffered the cultural and structural change that they suffered. This individual faces the problem of greenwashing. So what is greenwashing? Greenwashing is an unsubstantiated claim to deceive consumers into believing that a company's products are environmentally friendly. Businesses have started to realize that consumers would rather purchase ethical, sustainable alternatives to regular products. And some businesses decide to take advantage of that preference and to use dodgy labels that actually mean nothing, such as bio, non-toxic, or natural, to trick customers into thinking that by choosing to purchase that product, they are making the best choice for the planet, when that is not the case. I think that greenwashing has evolved from only product advertisements to political campaigns. Greenwashing in politics comes in the form of contradictory green promises and actual policies. Let's take, for example, Portugal. We have a carbon neutrality goal for 2050, but we also have the plan for a new airport in Montijo, which is going to be located next to the Tejo's estuary, where there is an incredible biodiversity, a place where I used to go bird watching as a child. This airport is going to be built against the will of environmentalists, environmental organizations, local communities, and just the general will of the Portuguese people. The European Union has a goal of decreasing carbon emissions to 55% by 2030. However, we also have a trade agreement with the Latin American economic bloc, Mercosur, which has been in negotiations for over 20 years without any transparency or the knowledge of the general public, and without properly including unions in the decision table. It's very important that we pay attention to these things, because this agreement is going to increase CO2 emissions due to the transport, production, and the very nature of the products that are involved, which are going to cause deforestation in the Amazon forest. Something else that we need to take in consideration is that this agreement will cause also human rights violation, and it will increase the power of multinationals. I believe every single social movement should come together to fight against the ratification of this agreement. Activists know that we need coherent policies in order to avoid climate disaster, and we will continue to fight for them. Climate change cannot be just a political trend or a market tendency for investors and companies to hop in of. It needs to be a wake-up call for significant cultural change. The imminence of climate disaster shows us that we not only have to rethink the outcome of our system, but also its very structures and roots. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Frances. Mia.
Yeah.
And all of this starts at home with parenting.
It really does, doesn't it? It's such an honor to be on a stage with such inspiring people. I felt really emotional when I heard them talk, because it takes me back to what I can do as a mother to help the world create more young people like this, which I think is extremely important. And I'd like to pick up on a few things that Frances said, which is, you use the expression empower to fight for change. And I think that's one of the most important things that we can do as parents. I work with conscious parenting. I've worked with it professionally for around 10 years. I'm a parent for 16, not always as conscious as I want to be, but I think that we need to really take this task of parenting really serious, and I do it as an activist. I feel that I am an activist for conscious parenting, and that's how I think it all starts. Because we as parents, we as educators, in each family, that's where the change starts. In each classroom, there's a potential for change and a better world. And for us to give space to these young people, and for them, these are the ones that are going to change our world. It's not me or you or us older. It's actually these people on this stage, my children at home, your children at home, every single child in the classrooms out there in the world. And to be able to do this, we as parents have to change our focus. Educators have to change their focus from just a plain correcting of behavior, from demanding obedience for children, from stuffing them with knowledge that they would just forget when they get out of a classroom, and offer them something else that they can actually use in this quest for creating a better world for all of us. And I believe that there's 4 values, and these are the values that I talk about as in my concept of conscious parenting. And the first one is equal dignity or equal value. It's teaching our children and showing them that all of us have equal dignity. It means that we have the right to express our emotions, our needs, our opinions, our thoughts without being judged. It means that we have the right to express who we are. It doesn't mean that that we can behave in any way, but it means that we have this freedom of speech, of showing who we are. The second value is respect for our integrity, and that we can respect children's integrity above all, and we do not do that as parents and educators today. Every single day, our children feel that their integrity is stepped upon in name of old values of education, and we really, really need to stop that. The third value is authenticity, is that we can be who we are, that we have courage to be who we are, and that we can let other people be who they are. And we really need to show our children that. We don't do that educating in a traditional way because we try to mold our children into the world that obviously is not sustainable. And last but not least, we have to teach about personal responsibility. We as adults have to take our personal responsibility for our needs, for our feelings, for our actions and our behavior, and teach our children to do the same. And equal dignity, respect for integrity, authenticity, and personal responsibility are 4 values that I each and every day try to teach my children, living them and letting them live them. And I do firmly believe that if we can do that at home, our children will be able to do exactly the same in the world. So
Mia, we were talking before we went on stage, these times that we are living. So most of us had like 4 up to 6 months at home with our kids.
Yes.
You know, most of them just going a little bit crazy, of course.
yeah.
Did you get all mindfulness during these 6 months?
Well, actually, most of the days I did. There's one question that I really like doing it, and that I ask parents to ask a lot is, what is most important right now? Mm-hmm. And usually the answer to that question is pretty clear when it comes. I had an insight during the confinement, which was sitting in my living room, and I suddenly heard the neighbors playing piano. And I realized, I haven't been hearing my neighbors lately. But usually I would hear lots of screaming in the morning and lots of screaming in the afternoon, and I hadn't done that. So somehow this confinement for that family, it actually brought something really sustainable. Mm-hmm. Because the plinging on the piano wasn't very nice for me, but I had a good moment because I realized,
At least they weren't screaming?
They weren't screaming.
Yeah. No, but I talk about these times, this new normal we're living, because, Francis, I believe it's quite challenging regarding the world as we live it right now. For instance, for youth to get a job. My daughter is at home she's not studying, she's not able to look for a job right now. So being activist during this time is easier, more difficult? What do you think?
I believe it is very challenging, but it's also more important than ever, because I think that right now we are at a time where we can choose where the world is going to be. We have the ability, because of COVID, to decide, so where is our energy going to come from? What is going to be our focus after this pandemic? Because after all, this pandemic was caused because of our interference with nature. And we can see its effects. It's very dangerous for us to do that. I think that we can rethink our economic system or our political system after this pandemic, because we have more time to think and more time to question things that we thought were, inherently good and inherently fair for everyone.
Mm-hmm. So I believe, Cassia, this attitude, it's also very common to your young leaders, right?
Yes, I think it was very inspiring for me to be working with those young people at that particular time. And I remember I was about to go to Brazil back. I'm living here since December. In March, everything was booked. And all this uncertainty happening, I don't know how, but I managed to keep calm, because I think I had like 300 young people also like looking as a reference, and I wanted to show them like that we could overcome together. And I remember the decision that I had to, like, we gave scholarships for pretty much everyone that asked us, and we triple our because we knew that in that moment they needed us most. And leadership, I think, is about that. Like, it's very easy to lead when jobs are plenty and everything's all right, and you just come here and smile. But the true leader is like the one that will do the right thing under those circumstances that they call the VUCA world, like volatile. We don't know, and this is the new normal, not because of COVID. We have to teach children, youth, and adults to live in this world that is much more uncertain than the ones that my parents lived.
Mm-hmm. But nevertheless, I believe it's, well, during my existence, is the first time that I feel like really a citizen of the world. We are all together in this. So Francis told me that they believe we are Planetiers. And I think maybe for the worst reasons, we are in fact living more or less at the same level. Of course, we have all this we'll be talking with Gustavo Corona in a while, so we will know we're not in the same boat. Maybe we're in the same ocean, but not in the same boat. But at least, Cassia, you got, at least I had with my kids, the knowledge that maybe this can put us together back to a common challenge. I don't know, but on the other side, we see all of these mats on the floor. We forgot to do all this kind of recycling. So I'm quite in the middle of this decision. Was it good or not that good?
Yeah, one of the things that we teach on our learning journeys is Theory U, and I really like the concept that the past and the future, they are kind of fighting for the present. So we are seeing the best and the worst of the two worlds. And I think what the pandemic did socially is like taking all the bad things out of the shadow. We cannot ignore that there is racism and that we are not in the same boat. And as for a working class family, this was hell. Whereas like an influencer can just go to their beach house. So I think what makes me hopeful is that see people like Francis and even younger than her, they are hardwired, where like they really see things in a way that the older generations didn't. So I think there's a lot of hope. And this is what we have is a social system. Like money is a social construct. Like and we were raised. I was raised, but I didn't learn very well. Like and that we cannot change things. Oh no, but this is the world. Like we're going to stop eating meat. Nobody care about that. But now half of my group don't eat meat. So I think there is like a hope.
So Francis, you agree?
Yeah, I think that this pandemic has brought us, a little bit further apart, because as Cassie was talking about, in the period where we had to be confined at home, there were people who could just go to their own personal garden, where there were people who were stuck in houses that didn't even have any windows, Yes. So it's a very different situation for all of us, especially for those of us who have to get public transport to go where we need to be, because it's not just good to say, oh, we need to reduce public transport capacity to half. But then there are people who actually need to use public transport. It's their only, it's their only way of getting to work, of getting to school. And if we don't have more public transport, we just say, stop using it, that's just not going to work. Yeah. And right now we have a dangerous situation in public transport in Lisbon, because there's just a lot of people in the same bus, in the same subway, which they cannot practice social distancing. Yes. It's simply impossible. So in that sense, I think that this pandemic really has, made us realize that there is a lot of economic and social inequality in the world right now. And I think that if we continue down this path, that it is just going to be more and more of that.
One thing and regarding your bio, and especially the strike on climate change, kids, as soon as they went back to school, they went on the strike. So everything, I would say that everything that matters came back to them. So I was quite proud to see all the kids in the school in front of my house with the board saying, I'm here on, yes, COVID, social distancing, but still with my board and my card saying I'm on strike. So you must be proud, you and your team that managed to bring the strike to Portugal.
Well, I mean, it's not like the climate crisis stopped happening
Yeah.
with COVID. I think we were.
Yeah, but you could have forgot about it, right?
No, we would never forget about
Yes.
it. I mean, we are fighting for a future on the planet, and we are one of the first generations that we don't expect to have better living conditions than our parents. In fact, very much the opposite. It's harder and harder to get a job, and our perspectives for the future, they're not very,
Right.
beautiful and glamorous.
Yes, yes.
So we are just trying to fight for our own survival, and of course that's going to happen under any circumstance.
Yeah, and Mia, we as parents, we in fact should and must empower our kids to be activists.
I really believe so.
Right.
I really do believe so, because so that this gap that Francis was talking about, that we can come together. Really, we really need. We as parents really need to take more responsibility for the conditions that we create for the future of everyone.
So back in our website, Planetiers Gathering World, we have all the information regarding all that our fantastic three guests do on daily basis. So you get to know them better. Go to our website and find out their links, their books, their activism. Please do so. We're now finishing this debate. So thank you so much for being here. And I'll be right back talking about education with social impact with Philippe Santos. See you in about 5 minutes. Thank you.